Welcome to our new Recipes for Success podcast. I'm your host and the CEO here at Zupa, Ollie Brand. Now, I've created the Recipes for Success podcast to get great minds from the hospitality community to share information that could benefit others within the sector, including ourselves. Now, our guest today is hospitality royalty. In fact, he is actually a British Hospitality Hall of Famer. It's none other than CH&Co's Bill Toner. Now, Bill's had a glistening career. He's been at the top of companies like Gardner Merchant, later to become Sodexo, Aramark, and CH&Co as it is today. And he's also a trustee on a number of industry charities, including Hospitality Action and Springboard UK. We're going to have a great discussion where we're going to get lots of insights that we could all learn from. So sit back and enjoy. Bill, welcome to the Recipes for Success podcast. It's great to have you. Normally like to kick these off with getting to understand a bit about the guest and how they've got into hospitality and their background. So would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
How long have you got?
Yeah.
I'll give you the brief synopsis then, shall I? So I started in hospitality, or I was blessed to start in hospitality at 14. I got a part-time job in a local hotel and loved it. You know, I just loved the vibe. I loved the excitement of it all. I loved being involved in all kinds of stuff in the hotel. So I knew at a very early age that I was going to be a chef because I was in the kitchen and, from washing pots to doing prep to doing all kinds of things in the kitchen. I thought I just loved it. So that's what happened. Like my father and two elder brothers were miners, and I was destined to be a miner. And when I said, no, I'm not going to go down the pit, I'm going to be a chef, much to everybody's dismay. No, you're not. Yes, I am. It's all of that. And that's how it all started. I am a chef to trade. So I qualified as a chef. I realised when I was younger how ambitious I was, because I found out early on that I wanted to be the hotel manager. I just didn't want to be the chef, as much as I loved it. I went to France for 2 years, worked in France as a chef for 2 years, but during that time started studying to become a hotel manager. So I studied wines, I studied service. I knew that was my goal, and that's what I wanted to be. So I just loved being in that hotel environment. And then when we returned from France, I was offered a job in the Royal Hotel in Durban as a sous chef. My wife fell pregnant, wouldn't go. And then I applied to Trust House 40, Gardner Merchant for a job, and that was it then.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. We stayed in the UK. I joined Gardner Merchant as part of Trust House 40. I loved that. But then at that time, it was more about working Monday to Friday. I mean, it was alien to me at the time. Not that it was a problem for me, because I loved working in hotels. And that's how it all kind of started. And then in Gardner Merchant, I was moved all around the country. They sent me to Ashridge and Henley and turned me into a young executive and trained me to run a business, which I loved.
Yeah, that's really interesting though, because when you started out, so your vision, because there's a lot of talk at the moment around being purpose-led and having a grand vision of where you're going. So you're looking at hotels, and then you sort of fell into it. And was it the kind of allure of the working hours and the way of it doing that, or was it?
It wasn't the working hours. People talk about avoid hospitality because of the hours. This. I never felt I was working long hours. I loved my job, and the vibe of it. I mean, I sometimes when I'm talking to younger people, and they'll say, "Oh, what about the hours?" I say, "So, how many people here have worked in hospitality?" And everybody puts their hands up. So why are you working in hospitality? Oh, well, paying money. I was washing dishes, or I was working in a bar, or just stuff. And I loved it. But then feel they need to get that Monday to Friday job. But those who join hospitality and it becomes a vacation and they really, truly enjoy it, it's no different from a policeman or a nurse or someone else who's in an environment that they love, because, in the NHS it's 24/7. So you either love it or you don't, and hospitality is the same. But we have lots of fun, lots of potential. You know, I'm very passionate about apprenticeships, 'cause that's where I started. But I've got apprenticeships who have started with me and who have either been washing dishes, who are now managers or deputy managers, and they come all the way through the industry. And that's fabulous to see. They've no idea of their own potential, but then they're realising it in an environment that they enjoy.
Yeah, just that, going from apprentice to, well, looking at you today, I mean, that's something that a lot of people, I could put people off, working as a kitchen porter or as a chef or as a waiter, and then seeing the GM or the MD and thinking, God, that's a long way off. Yeah. So what's been that special ingredient to get you to where you are today?
Oh gosh, I don't know. There's a special ingredient. I mean, I didn't have a timeline. I didn't think by the age of 30 I want to be. I just enjoyed the journey and made sure that I was moving around. The nice thing about, Trust House 40 or Garden Merchant at the time, it was a big beast. So there was always numerous opportunities to travel and to do other things. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed moving around the country or moving into different disciplines and just figuring out how it all worked. So I was a sponge then. I was thinking, my God, this is amazing. Just to figure out how, I remember doing an exercise with Astridge on restructuring Puritan Maid, which was our procurement arm. And we concentrated on Little Chef. And it was just a fascinating exercise. You don't realise it where you go in to study it and you think, why do we hire additional vehicles for the weekends? Well, that's when they want a delivery. I said, oh, really? Why? But we own Little Chef and we own Puritan Maid. Why don't we just deliver it during the evening rather than hiring more vehicles? Oh, that's not what we do. I said, oh, okay then. And that whole business exercise allowed us to save millions out of that and do a better job. So it was all these fun things about how do we see things differently. And I was given the opportunity of using my brain and looking at business and whether or not there's a different way of doing stuff.
Yeah, finding big problem solving and making efficiencies and all that. But
people in hospitality tend to do that. We tend to not think there's a problem. It's always a solution. Oh, there's a problem. Well, how am I going to fix it? And that's part of our DNA, really. Client complains, what am I going to do? How am I going to fix this problem? So, and you surround yourself with people of a similar ilk, always much younger and brighter than me, and that spurs you on.
Yeah, absolutely. That is such that attitude resonates massively. I mean, we obviously work with hospitality businesses, and there is that air of if whenever there is a problem there, it's like, well, bloody hell, I'll just get on with it myself.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
So as a British hospitality, hold on, I need to word this right. As a British Travel and Hospitality Hall of Famer.
Oh.
Got the plug in there. Yeah. What does the sector mean to the wider economy, in your view?
Apart from being a Hall of Famer, I was very honoured to receive that from the caterer. The sector. I'm a great lobbyist for the sector, all the way through COVID, but I'm going back to the days when I was on the CBI Regional London Council and used the CBI to have both our key charities, Hospitality Action and Springboard, more recognised and lobbying for, be it the CBI or others, to join our, become patrons and or help us with our endeavours. And when you go into the detail of it all, when I was on the CBI Council, hospitality represents between 10 and 11% of the UK's GDP. So we're not some little outfit, hospitality's huge. It's a huge employer up and down the country. And history dictates that when there has been a recession, hospitality and the service industries tend to be at the forefront of growth. That's where, things starts to happen. So I'm a great believer in that. So fighting for furlough and protection all the way through COVID and anything else we can do for the industry, the sector, be it training from apprenticeships to whatever, I'm very passionate about. And because it's a pivotal part of the UK economy. And that's not going to change anytime soon. So I think leaders, people like me now are doing what we can with government to make sure that we stay at the forefront and we continue to employ and train and develop this wonderful sector.
Absolutely. And what, on the macro challenges, what are you seeing as the main kind of challenges at the moment, at present?
Again, part of my lobbying, any opportunity I get post-Brexit. So I wasn't a fan of Brexit, more because of when you're in our industry, a significant part of our team are Europeans and international labour. And a bit like me going to South Africa or spending 2 years in France, we move around for continuous development and excitement from this sector, and we just closed that door. And the problem we have with growth at this very point is people. We don't have enough people to satisfy the growth in all of the hospitality sector, from hotels to restaurants to wherever. We can't find enough people. It's our biggest single challenge. Then you'll throw in the war in Ukraine, then you'll throw in inflation, then you'll throw in loss of products. So we're constantly re-engineering based on menu development to what products are available and how we then factor those into feeding people at work or school or wherever. So huge ongoing challenges. But my biggest one at this point in time is people.
Mm. Yeah, that completely aligns to what we're hearing from all hospitality sectors. I mean, people, costs, and then supply chain challenges are obviously the big things. Yeah. So when talking about the impacts of staff shortages, I mean, how is that being felt at CH&Co, would you say?
It's colossal. I mean, we move people around to service peaks and troughs. I mean, this very month, we have huge in our events business. We're going to do 2,500 people a night for a Christmas party, and that needs an influx of people to execute and service that. If I think about Her Majesty the Queen's, are now the King's Garden parties, to pull that off, we employed people from all over the country because, one, everybody has to be security cleared, and we need 400 people for 8,500 people for afternoon tea. So you've got to look at the body of our business and how do we pull that off. So right at the front end, we are working really hard on people leave people, not companies. So what do we do differently from our competitors? When we do employ someone, how do we retain them? To make sure that our benefits and everything else we do is at the top end, from providing bicycles to supporting with loans to making sure we're doing or providing other benefits. This is all about retention. But now I'm actively recruiting from South Africa, India, and the Philippines, because we still don't have enough people. And there are less challenges because we have a license to bring in certain grades from other countries. And that's something that we are very passionate about. But then when we do bring someone from South Africa, we'll make sure that they are still, their development continues whilst they're with us. And we're actively pursuing that. So I'm pretty excited about the outcome of that.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I mean, some of the statistics that we see, where it's a 10% vacancy rate across the whole of the hospitality. Well, the UK hospitality, so there's 200,000 vacancies at the moment within the sector. With that topic, you touched on retention, which is obviously fundamental with the people that we've got there. Some of the traditionally speaking, there's a bit of a nervousness around changing jobs.
Yeah.
But then we talk about millennials and Generation Z, or the youngsters coming through, and there is a more willing, or the attitude is to shift jobs, or be more open to doing so.
Yeah.
And also, one of the impacts of COVID is potentially, or the pandemic had an impact of people's thoughts towards work-life balance, and people looking to alternative work with more sociable hours, places that offer a higher rate of pay, and places like Amazon offering these roles. And we've seen it across many sectors. Even Toby, my brother, is a pilot, seeing that in the airport staff as well. So in terms of methods of retaining staff, what are you seeing as the best methods for you?
Well, from the very top, it's more treating people with the respect that you would like to be treated yourself is the given. But we have a number of our learning development team from our HR team work on initiatives to make sure that we are communicating effectively. We're using social media, we're posting. I have for my team Zoom calls every month, and we're just looking at getting feedback to why are people staying with us? What do they see us doing differently? And they like to be involved and engaged. They like to know what's happening. They like to feel valued. Where is the company going? And the very fact that we work on this communication strategy from providing our own magazine that's sent to everybody's home, and we feature as many of our employees as possible, and just updating them on what is happening, why we believe we're setting ourselves apart from our competition. But it's all about your acknowledgement and working with your team and communicating with them.
Absolutely. No, thanks. Communication is key.
Yeah.
So now moving more to, we've focused on sort of people and the team and the main challenges, looking more to the market now. What are you seeing as the main kind of initiatives that are the most important initiatives for your customers? So talking about like ESG or corporate social responsibility.
Oh yeah, I mean
health and wellness, these kind of things.
All of that's at the forefront. I mean, we don't have a board meeting unless we're talking about ESG, corporate social responsibility, and what we're doing as an organisation in partnership with our clients and sustainability. So clients are demanding of us now, well, what are we doing with sustainability? And then we can talk about proactively, we've created hubs where some of our smaller suppliers deliver into a hub, and it's one vehicle that goes into London and delivers multiple suppliers to a client. Clients love that because they don't have multiple vehicles turning up, and we're keeping vehicles out of London. So there's a whole range of initiatives on sustainability and making sure that well-being and corporate social responsibility is at the forefront of what we do. And I know our business partners, Equistone, have a team of people on sustainability and ESG that they use for their multiple clients that we participate in to make sure that we're at the forefront. And again, it's not our discipline, but it's a client demand, and I think it's necessary. I mean, like sustainability for me personally, when it comes to I have 7 grandchildren. I want to make sure that we, from a personal point of view and from a business point of view, is doing everything we can to work with the planet. And that's on product and on packaging and on delivery. So we're pretty passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel it possibly that it's the focus on sustainability has slightly, because of the reactive nature of this year and sort of the problems that or the challenges that the sector's faced? Do you think that sustainability has slightly fallen down the priority order in terms of the daily challenges?
No, I don't think so. No, I mean, when you go through something like the pandemic, everything fell over. Everything, like the world was caught on a hop. You're instructed to stay at home. Nobody knew what the hell was going on, so everybody went into survival mode. And I know, even from a business point of view, we had no alternative given the business went from £500 million turnover to 30. Thousands of people lost their job. thousands. And that was just with us. The whole sector made thousands of people. So people had to find other work, from airports to wherever. I mean, and the work that was available was either with supermarkets or with Amazon or with driving. Things, other businesses were created, and needs must. People had to feed their families. So all of these other opportunities popped up. And of course, I remember I was in an Uber recently talking to someone, and he was a general manager of a hotel. I said, God, why have we lost you from this sector? He said, well, kids are a bit younger, and I drive when it suits me. He said, I can be there when they go to school, I can be there when they come home, and when they go to bed, I go back out and work. So I am working probably more hours, but it's suiting my lifestyle at this point in time. Now, that may change. Am I enjoying it as much as I used to? Probably not, but right here, right now, I needed a job, and I found this job. So, and that's going to happen for a lot. Our goal, because I've shared this story with my board, how do we get those people that we've lost from the sector back into the sector? How do we then become a bit more flexible? How do we change people's working hours? Is it possible that they can see the kids off to go and see school and then come in at 9:30 rather than 9 or 8? We have to think differently. And I think post-COVID, it's up to us to make changes. And I feel that's at the forefront. And we as a business are adjusting, even in our own office environment, to who works from home, who doesn't, what time people come in, when do they go. Everybody's becoming more flexible to meet their needs. I would rather retain experienced, professional, talented people so that we could accommodate what their own personal lives are. And some of that is being available to pick up the kids from school. Absolutely. And it's something like as simple as that, because then you don't have to employ someone to do it. And then you can go home and pick them up. And then, because of technology and social media and if you wanted to catch up on your hours when the kids are in bed, happy days. And it's just thinking differently about how we go to work.
Absolutely. Can I just touch on something a second ago when you're talking about innovation around, or I say innovation is around the CSR or ESG and having sort of central production hubs. That's an innovation that it's a business model that we've seen become more common. Central production kitchens, dark kitchens everywhere. Do you think that that's a sort of a future, how the sector is going to evolve in contract catering?
Right here, right now, we're again looking for another central production kitchen. We have a large one in Wimbledon that looks after all of our events business. And it's never dark, but it does small weddings and events throughout the year. But we're looking for one central London, because some clients who are opening up in London, because space is such a premium, they want products shipped in. So they want it prepared somewhere else, it's delivered somewhere else, and it comes in to be finished. And that requires less space, less storage, less energy. And I would say now it's not going to change overnight, but the new clients that are coming into the market or going into new buildings, that is live. So we're delivering in right here, right now. There's no difference from, you go back, I don't know how many years, when we started having sandwiches delivered. They were produced somewhere else and they came in, a bigger selection, and you bought what you wanted and they were made available. I mean, back in the days, when Marks and Spencer started introducing home meals, everybody was like, oh my God, this is terrible. Because now, second nature.
Yeah.
Bing, bing, everybody's happy. So you've got, if there's an opportunity, you have to feed that. But right here, right now, prep kitchens are crucial.
Yeah, does it help with the people shortage and also consistency around regulatory demands?
No, it does. I mean, it's back to that. It's doing prep elsewhere just makes such a difference. And some of it is delivery and storage. I mean, if you're in central London and you've got a full kitchen and you're feeding 1,000 people, the space you require to execute that is pretty phenomenal, from delivery, storage, execution, feeding, cleaning up, etc. So anything else we can do, I mean, speak to Toby. When you're on a plane, everybody sits down, everybody's ready to go on a nice long flight, and eventually someone brings you a drink. It's all in a little trolley and it's all done. And then eventually you'll get some food. But the meals on a plane are so scientific in terms of how they're prepared, how they travel, how they sit, how they reheat, what they're going to look like in that environment. Every second is analysed to make sure when it comes in your little tray, you look at it and think, oh, it's lovely, and it tastes nice. So that the world is coming into this. It's delivering it in and looking at it and think, oh, this is rather nice.
It's an amazing thought that the wagon wheel of when you've got it on the plate of where everything's come from to get to that point is extraordinary.
Well, I mean, I've worked in large central production kitchens because in Trust House 40 we had airline catering, and again it was fascinating. And the years gone by, I remember being involved strategically, which is how old I am, on designing the breakfast for Eurostar. So Eurostar was just coming; it was just about to be launched, and we had, for staff training, a makeup of a carriage and how people worked in a carriage, and then what happened with the food, because in any oven, like the bottom gets warmer faster in any oven. So you've got to scientifically realise how you put everything into the oven, but everything comes out perfect. So it's just stuff you need to understand, and that's the world we live in now.
I think a lot of the stuff you've covered is amazing insight that people listen to and think, get ideas from. But what information are you gleaning from customers that would be a great shared insight for other people that may be listening who work in the sector?
Anybody who's in the sector will be going through similar challenges to us in finding people, product, inflation, and all of that. And I sometimes, honestly, it's fascinating to me how resilient this sector is on our ability to get to work and execute and enjoy it. And my goal, if there's anything, is just to make sure the people who work for us realise and feel valued, and then we in turn deliver that service to our clients. And when clients are asking me, oh, what are you doing about recruitment? Oh my God, what are we doing about this? Or what are we doing about inflation? These are all real things because it's on the news 24/7. And then we have to talk about what we're doing to re-engineer menus. Like we don't buy certain products that are double or triple the price. So when you talk about what we're doing, they think, oh, okay, so you're on it then. So they want to feel that we understand and we're executing as best we can to mitigate inflation. And that's just, changing products sometimes. Like moving from chicken breast to, lamb. Whatever's available to us, we tend to think it through and get on it.
Cool. On the topic of community or other people in the sector, I mean, you've worked with some incredible names like Gary Hawkes, Gordon Ramsay, and of course
Sir Gary Hawkes.
Sir Gary Hawkes. Apologies. Gordon Ramsay,
Jerry Brand,
the one and only Jerry Brand, to name a few. It's obviously a tight knit sector, and these are people you've worked with. But when it comes to competition, is there, what are your views regarding the importance of community in the wider sector and shared insights? I'm saying that in terms of being able to, it's an incredibly competitive sector, and there's a willingness to share best practice or insights for the betterment of customers. What are your thoughts? I've probably butchered that question a little bit.
No, I know where you're coming from. I mean, I would say if I go back to pre-COVID and all the way through COVID, and the sector becoming under, UK hospitality getting together to lobby government. I'm proud of the fact of me sitting alongside all of our key competitors to be one voice. And we didn't go into, how competitive it was or whatever the case may be. We just got together understanding the goal of lobbying government for the benefit of our business and our people. And I'm very proud of what we achieved there. And that continues. I would say I am friends with most of my key competitors. We'll be at events or we'll socialise or we'll raise money for charity together. But, when it comes to it, when we're bidding for or trying to retain business, we're all in. But it doesn't prevent us from working together. And it's no different from the hotel sector getting together or the restaurant sector getting together. Not everybody's going to go to the same restaurant at the same time or the same hotel. People move around, and you want them to come back because they, for whatever reason, had an enhanced level of service in that particular environment. And the fascinating thing about our business, any business in the service industry, when you have a good experience, you'll happily tell, 10 people. If you have a bad experience, you'll tell 10 or 20 or 30. Oh my God, don't go there, it was terrible. So that has a huge impact on your future. So preventing that from happening is paramount. And the only way you can do that is employ the right people, make sure they're trained properly, and we're delivering the expectation to the customer. Do that, the numbers will take care of themselves.
Yeah, and that bit about the ratings or who they tell and everything's getting much more in the public eye or through social media or anything. So follow-up question to that is, with the likes of millennials and Generation Z or Z coming through, the information sharing generation, as they step into more managerial positions, how do you think the working environment in contract catering is going to evolve?
Well, it will evolve because it always has. And we do have millenniums or GZs, or call them what you will, and we've just got to adjust. It's our ability to recruit, retain talent. And I think understanding social media and how it works to the benefit of a business. We have yaps that are in our business, and every single employee, we work really hard at getting them to sign up so they can see, feel in touch what's happening in every sector. So there's some MDs will have yaps that are just for education, and then they'll post pictures or opportunities or, help, I'm short-staffed, or whatever the case may be. It's this community feel. And at the forefront of all of that are this generation where they live on their phones. We're working with partners such as yourself that we are looking at technology, what can be on the phone, what can be on a tablet, how do we electronically communicate with our suppliers. Anything we can do to streamline that and make it easy or easier is at the forefront of what we're trying to do.
And now going into the wider community, I mean, we're hearing a lot about sorry, I'll say that again. There currently seems to be a growing trend of businesses outsourcing catering. There's massive opportunities for contract caterers, and in recent weeks we've seen things from the likes of Compass, Sodexo, Elior, Aramark, some familiar names to you, but they're all talking about how strong their new sales and retention rates are. And is it the same feeling at CH&Co?
No, definitely. I mean, I read all of my competitors' results, and yes, I mean, I'm pretty proud of the fact that our retention has always been high 90s anyway. And if I think of where we are today versus where we were pre-COVID, we've had some losses, but a lot of those losses were because of COVID, not because of anything that we were doing as a business, and that goes across the sector. Post-inflation, or not inflation, but post, any crisis we've had in the past, clients then wake up to the idea of what can they do differently. Is there a different way or a better way of looking at their food strategy? And that's where they tend to then look at contract catering. And I was in a 7-star hospital that we have the pleasure of working with. And we were awarded that contract because we were foodies. And, it may well be a hospital, but they wanted a team of people who were going to understand the complexities of delivering 7 stars to their client base. And it's going rather well. So we're contract caterers, but we are a team of professional chefs or managers delivering a service to a client within a budget, irregardless of the challenge, be that a royal garden party, be that a hospital, be that a school or a college. That's what we do, and all of the skills I learned in hotels were all transferable into a sector and sectors, because it's just the same. It's providing food, providing a service to a client and or customer, and the same thought process goes into it.
It feels like we've come off the back of unprecedented times, and everyone's talking about how we're starting to exceed 2019 levels. Yeah. So how do you see within the sectors that you work in, sort of, I guess, looking at them as different levels of, because it's had differing impacts.
Yeah.
So across the sectors like BNI and so on. I mean, where are your predictions at the moment, and seeing how the markets are going to perform?
We're constantly reassessing what we do or how we do it over a 7-day period. I mean, schools and colleges are doing exactly the same as they were doing before, because people have to be educated, they have to go to school. I mean, it's law, so all of that kind of still happens. But in the work environment, then we track everything on cash. So we know that Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays are above where we were pre-COVID. But then there's less people at work, but the transaction sale is higher. Fridays are still there or thereabouts, maybe dipped. But if we go back in time, pre-COVID, Fridays were always quiet. There might be a breakfast or a brunch, and people worked from home on a Friday afternoon, and that was becoming the norm. All of a sudden, Mondays is where cash has fallen off the cliff. People have extended their weekend to Saturday, Sunday, Monday because of this working from home. Now, technology allowed us to work from home. If I go back to COVID, I had to learn how to deal with Teams and Zoom and information homebound, because I had to. I didn't really have any choice. Keeping the business functioning and alive and communicating with your people and with clients, you had to do that through whatever means you could. And of course, people have adjusted to that, so they feel, I can still do my job from home on a Monday. And then it's up to clients then to decide whether or not that's acceptable to them. I would say the clients I'm now dealing with are saying, we really want people back at work. They've invested heavily in infrastructure and whatever, but they want the culture of the organisation to be back to where it was. That's everything from working with and training graduates to the whole business getting back to where it once was. I think there's more flexibility, but I think there's going to be a real need to get back to work. And I feel, every week I would say it's creeping up and up and up. Next year, would it be back at 100%? Quite possibly, because that's what employers want. Employers want people to come back to nurture that culture and why they're different from everybody else. So that will prevail.
What do you think to other segments like leisure, stadia, education, or the other segments that you work in? How do you see that impacting? Because some of the stuff we see, like just as an example, the stadium stuff, some of the statistics coming out of like the percentage attendance rates at Premier League football matches is still, it's 99%, 98%. Like, it's, people want that experience.
Yeah. That's not going to go away anytime soon. If there's any shortfall, it's more about things being cancelled for other things rather than people's willingness to go. But Stadia, I would say, is back to normal. Certainly our Christmas party season is back to normal, and there's any issues with the Christmas party season, it's going to be train strikes and or weather. So there's other things. So you go through all of this, and then you think, oh God, hospitality, we've got all these strikes coming up, and then we adjust to what do we need to fix this. How do we do deals with hotels for people to get in and stay over, to bringing people in buses. We start to think about a solution to the problem rather than just laying down and crying. So education, I think, is back to where it once was. Stadia is doing likewise. B&I is getting there. But no, I think it's I'm feeling if we didn't have any strikes or any issues, we would probably have a clean year next year on how the sector is performing against pre-COVID. But 2019 to now we're into 2023, it's been a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah. And just going back to now, moving more to the innovations and things that you've seen, because we mentioned the M&S meal, central production kitchens. Yeah. I mean, what are you seeing as the big innovations coming through into the sector?
We touched on the central production kitchens. At the minute, that's a key focus for us. There's no question about it. And it's like anything. It's more about needs must. It's product and re-engineering and redeveloping. We're looking at other parts of the world to where we buy product, where is it plentiful and cost effective that we can introduce into menus. So rather than someone designing a menu that sounds fabulous, is going to taste fabulous, but the cost of it is prohibitive, we're looking at, okay, how do we re-engineer ourselves to look at what's plentiful and make sure all of that is cost effectively put into our menus. So it really is fighting inflation and the war in Ukraine and its impact on oil and energy and everything else that is thrown at us. It's what else can we do differently to smooth the waters. Inflation is running at 11%. We're holding it as best we can under 10. But that's born out of re-engineering. It's I was in the supermarket recently, and I said, "Excuse me, have you moved the eggs?" She said, "No, there's none." I think, none? Oh, none. So these are like bird flu. Like things happen, and then it's not until you're faced with it you think, God, so. Our teams work really hard about no eggs available. This is where you can buy powder eggs. This is how you bake with. All of that stuff is at the forefront of everything we do. It's kind of, this is a problem and how we're going to fix it. And that's everything from don't buy avocados because they're 3 times the price because there's a problem. Whatever it is. If a client then says, I'm prepared to pay for this, happy days. But our job is to re-engineer as cost effectively as we can.
Absolutely. And then just circling back to yourself, so in your career, you've taken many small and medium businesses and turned them into large enterprise level businesses. So what would your advice be to small businesses in the sector to differentiate themselves?
I don't know if I would be giving them advice to differentiate themselves. Our success has been working with small entrepreneurs, founders who are at a stage, given their size and scale, that there comes a point in any business where it requires further investment on systems and or people and on whatever. There comes a point on structure, and you might be doing quite nicely, but when you start to then invest in all of these things, your EBITDA or profitability, goes backwards to possibly even losses in preparation for growth. And of course, in our sector at this point in time in hospitality, it's tough. It is tough out there, and we've got a team and resources to fight against the challenges. So I work with lots of businesses, and it's timing. I've just got to wait until they feel a merger with us is the right thing to do for their business and their people, providing job opportunities and security and cash security. And that will continue. I think small businesses, at the right time will think, yeah, now's the time. And my job is to facilitate that. And we don't really go knocking on doors. We keep in touch, and then when the time's right, then we capitalise on it.
Do you feel like there's a good market at the moment for organic growth or M&A or entering new markets?
I would say I spend an inordinate amount of time on managing a team of people who focus on our organic growth and constantly looking for new talent to join that team. Organic growth is pivotal to our success. Running alongside that will be M&A opportunities that we can strengthen sectors that we're already in. Education being an example, where we've bought 3 education businesses and we're now one of the largest independents, and that continues to grow both organically, and then we'll look at other opportunities. So, the clever people keep on asking me, well, what is your strategy? When are you going to move into healthcare? I said, well, I wish it was all down on a piece of paper, but if something's not for sale, then I can't buy it. And that's going to prevent me from doing lots of things. So, when there's lots of opportunities we've walked away from, either we weren't happy with it or it didn't fit our strategy and structure. It was going to be out here kind of, we could buy it, but who's going to look after it? It's not going to quite fit, and what will clients think? So you just stick to your knitting, really, and do the best you can in the sectors that you participate in.
Mm-hmm. Well, just going back to that differentiation point, so for a small or medium business that, let's just say a 20, 50, 100 sighter, how can they come to a tender, a competitive tender, versus a bigger business, which has got more credibility, backing, all that stuff, and come out in front to win the business?
We'll see. Again, it's down to people. We are very much, the sector is a people sector. When I talk about my assets are people, our ability to deliver and retain and persuade clients that we are best in class and small competitors who appear have the same challenge. They might not have the same systems or the same financial backing or the focus on well-being or the same tools, but a client, for whatever reason, feel that they want to work with them and give them an opportunity. And it happens. We're a very easy entry into contract catering, and small companies do well in a small geographical area where they're working with and dealing with personally their clients. So I don't see that changing anytime soon, to be honest. And then they'll get to a size where then I can buy them.
Just going to the other side of the bar then, as a customer, what do you feel hospitality businesses don't always get right?
It's crucial for us, you have to have an induction and a training program that someone joins us and they get to know and understand what we're all about. And in so doing, that quality of time means that the customer or the client that they'll be dealing with feels that. And in all walks of life, training is paramount. I was talking to a client and we had to have some agency staff coming in, and these were bar people and they'd never opened a bottle of wine before. So that's just a mistake. That's shooting your own self in the foot. So the peaks and troughs of our industry means that we do require agency labour. We do. And with our agency partners, then we have very strict rules to, qualifications and or experience. And if there's not available right here, right now, when they're not available, if they're human and they can breathe and they're going to turn up and they're willing to learn on the job, it's better than nothing. And that's the sad part of the reality we're currently living in. And we're aware of that, so that's why we're taking steps to make sure that agency staff are properly briefed, and they've got some in notifications through social media, and we're outlining what our expectations are. But it's really important that they still turn up and help rather than don't.
Absolutely. This next one is a question that we'd ask all our guests, which the recipes for success. But what would be a key learning that you'd share with your younger self starting out?
A key learning with my younger self. Listen more. Just, everything we do is to help individuals, and listen more and take advantage of other people's knowledge and experience, and enjoy the journey. But then when I think back to my younger self, where I was gung-ho and, let's get this done, and not taking the time to speak to someone who's already done it several times and probably knows how to do it faster and quicker and more cost effectively. So listen more and take advantage of knowledge and experience that you're surrounded with.
That's sage advice. And what's next for you in terms of your focus?
I am going to continue doing what I'm doing as long as I'm enjoying it. I've been blessed since I started working in a hotel at 14 to this very day of waking up and enjoying what I do. And a big part of my involvement with our sector and our lobbying and I do all of that because I truly believe this is a sector that offers so much more in terms of career development, personal success, and enjoyment. So I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing.
That's great. What was it that actually made you fall in love with hospitality in the first? What was the experience like walking into a hotel at 14?
I was terrified. I can tell you now, it took days of walking to the hotel and thinking, I'm going to go in today and I'm going to ask for a job. But it wasn't the first day. I can't remember how many times I was just in awe of it all, thinking they'll never employ me. And then, I got a job, and then I was just like a mouse for weeks, until I joined in and I loved it. I couldn't wait to go to work. I couldn't wait to leave school to be full time, and then being sent to college on day release and I've been blessed with a career that's just been fun and exciting.
That's brilliant. I think that's a perfect place to close off. But I just want to say that I remember the first time meeting you when I was a scruffy 18-year-old working at Host.
You're a boy.
Yeah, and you rocked up at the Host office. I think it was your first day as CEO. I remember the presence and the immediate standards that came with your arrival, and what you've gone on to achieve, but also what I know it's a shared sentiment within the sector, well, with anyone that crosses paths with you, but very grateful, and thank you for coming to the podcast today.
Yeah, loved it. Good luck.
Thanks. There you have it. So if you've enjoyed my discussion with Bill and you have feedback, or you've got insights that you'd like to share and take part in the podcast, please don't hesitate to contact me directly on ollie.brand@zupa.com. Now please share this with your networks or share it with people that you think would be interested, and do hit subscribe on whichever channel you're using to listen to or watch this podcast. This has been Recipes for Success. Until next time.